We as business owners, we have to live dangerous, or in my case, we have to be relentless. If we're going to accomplish our vision, our purpose, our calling, our life, there's no place for timidity. There's no place for passivity. My limiting belief has always been pride. You need that wife, that teacher, that friend, that colleague to help you achieve the goal that I've set in front of you. It's not the infancy that kills us. It's whenever we get comfortable as entrepreneurs. We now start doing what I call the sandcastle effect. We're not letting go of what needs to happen in that tranche to get us re-excited. If you're feeling stuck or you're not feeling as energized as you have in the past, it helps to understand where you are in the journey.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm your host as usual. And in our studio, we have Justin Goodbread. How are you today, sir?
My friend Rick, man, I am living a dream. I often say I'm too blessed to be depressed on this beautiful day here in East Tennessee.
Loving that, loving that, loving that. Folks, before we get started, if you haven't done already, would love it if you'd like, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. And without further ado, let's get to it. Justin, you show up with the Be Relentless on your shirt. You ready to get it. I love it.
Yeah, this is my 2 words, man. I met a friend of mine years ago. He's a public speaker here in East Tennessee named Derek Savage. He actually said, he goes, live dangerous. Live dangerous. You know, everybody says, be careful. He's like, no, live dangerous. We as business owners, we have to live dangerous, or in my case, we have to be relentless. If we're going to accomplish what I often say, our vision, our purpose, our calling, our life, the very thing that God designed us for, if we're going to do that, then man, there's no place for timidity. There's no place for passivity. It's wake up in the morning, charge hell with a water pistol, go around the wall, through the wall, under the wall, over the wall, whatever it's going to take, but get to the freaking wall to accomplish the things that you have in front of you. So you got to be relentless, or else, man, this world is just going to pass you up, and you're going to look back one day with regret. And I don't know about you, Rick, but I don't want to live with regret. I don't.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I kind of fear that. You know, it's like you heard the story about like the tombstone. You know, you got your birth date, your end date, and you know, it's like you want to make sure what's in between it matters. Yeah, that's important for me. I love the idea. And not the idea. My interest is in creating impact. You know, I want to help folks. You know, entrepreneurs. I want to work with other types of folks. Just help them make a difference and help them make a difference in the world, in their own world. So cool, man. So you talked about, you come right out of the gate, you're talking about hit the wall. How do you prioritize? You know, you've had a lot going on in your life. How do you figure out, what that one thing, that 2 thing, 3 thing, whatever that's going to be for the day is going to be?
You know, there was a song written by the Byrds years ago. It talks about there's a season, everything turn. You know, there's a season. People probably sing in their head now. I was like, thanks, Justin. I'm going to be singing this the rest of my day. But it comes from Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes talks about there's seasons of life. There's time for goodness. There's time for heartache. There's times to plant. There's time to reap. Whenever we deal with life, if we look back, you and I have a little bit of gray in our beards. When we look back now, we've had some heartaches in our life. We've had some times whenever we were just kind of walking blindly. We had some times where we wonder, man, what in the world? And we had some time saying, man, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Maybe better than Meat Lover's pizza. Definitely better than pineapple on pizza, Rick. Okay. We've had some of those days in our life. Whenever we come to us as business owners, it ultimately comes down to there was something that launched us forward. Maybe it was we were working for somebody and we saw that, hey, I don't like the way they're treating other employees. I don't like the way they're solving this solution. We can do it better. Before you know it, for whatever reason, we find ourselves in an entrepreneurial position where now we have taken the plunge, if you will. We've jumped into the deep end, maybe not even knowing what swimming is, much less knowing how to swim. And when that happens, what we often are looking for are those individuals around us who have somewhat had some, I use air quotes for this, success. Yeah. And at least they look like they've had success. Yeah, you and I both know now with some seasonality that all that glitters is not gold, as the old saying goes. But to your point, yeah, seriously, to your point, whenever we're trying to determine what that vision is or what that purpose or that calling, it often comes in the quietness. It often comes in the darkness. It often comes in the valleys. You and I were talking beforehand. I love the woods. That's where my place of solace is. That's the place where I go and get away. In fact, I'm leaving tomorrow to go away for 14 days to the North Pole where no one's at except for maybe the abominable snowman. And in that moment, I'm going to have a little bit of chance of clarity. And so whenever I get rested and clear, or whenever I'm going through hard times, I realize that there's more to life than Justin. There's more to life than the pride and the ego that I often possess. And we as business owners, we're often very tenacious, and some of us are egotistical. I'm probably the biggest one out there because we're capable. We're highly capable people. But as we push through this, Rick, what happens is that our purpose, our calling, our vision, through all those things, almost like the master stone begins to take shape.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is discovered in a season. Sometimes it may take multiple seasons. In my own life, I was 19 years of age. I was sitting at a conference. Dr. Miles Monroe, you and I were talking about him. He wrote a ton of books, an African-American brother. He's now with Jesus, but he wrote tons of books on character and vision and calling. I remember him talking. He was on stage, man, and he's hammering it out. And right behind him, one of my heroes, Zig Ziglar, gets up. And Ricky says, he says, hey, friends, pull out a half a sheet of paper. Now, Rick, you got to remember, I'm 19. Everybody's mine of your age now. They got gray on their faces and their hair like you and I do. And I'm looking around all these old cats, and they pull out a half a sheet of paper. So I pull out a half a sheet of paper, and I'm sitting there, man, ready to roll. And Zig Ziglar, he said, I'd like for you to write the numbers 1 through 3. Well, I'm from Georgia. I knew how to do that. I had 3 fingers. I could count real fast. So I wrote 1, 2, 3 down. And he said, I'd like for you to write your wildest dreams that you want to accomplish in the next. And he paused. He got real quiet. And that room was that quiet. It was quiet, Rick. In the next 20 years. Now, I've been to a lot of his conferences. I've never heard him do this before. I'm sitting there and I said, next 20 years, what do I want to accomplish? At that point, Rick, so someone would said, Justin, what's your calling? What's your purpose? I wouldn't be able to answer. So you know what I wrote down? I said, number 1, I'm going to marry a smoking hot girl. Number 1, right? I'm 19. Emily's in my life in a second. Number 2, write a New York Times bestseller. Okay. Number 3, become a decamillionaire. Become worth $10 million before the age of 40. Okay. That was my purpose. That was the calling. And so I put all the energy behind that, and then life happens. When life happens, it has you question those things. Fast forward about 16 years, and here I am now 36 years of age. And Emily's my wife, thank God. She's everything to me at this point. As you and I said, she's just amazing. She's loved my life. I had written a number 1 Wall Street Journal bestseller, never a New York Times bestseller, and we were not near $10 million net worth. So I remember looking at this and saying, what if I got hyper-focused on that promise I made the 19-year-old self? You know what I was able to accomplish? All 3 of those things. Well, we didn't hit New York Times bestseller yet. We're getting close. We haven't hit that yet, but we were able to hit everything else within a 3-year period of time, 4-year period of time. So the purpose and the vision of the calling is going to come out of turmoil. It's going to come through an abrupt position. It's going to come out of a disruption like Zig Ziglar did in that moment. And then it's going to be challenged every single day. We're going to face adversity.
Yeah. So it's that what I guess you're alluding to is like looking at every single day is like, how do I make progress towards this goal? Towards making $10 million, is that kind of what you did?
James Clear wrote the book Atomic Habits. He talks about the 1% daily increase, right? And how it multiplies over a year's time. A phenomenal book, great concept there. Ultimately, it becomes being relentless. Let's use your term, my term, right? Being relentless on the impact or the desired outcome that we want to have and keeping that same thing singular. I'll give you an example. At the age of 16, I was with my father and we were in Daytona, Florida, in the Daytona, Florida Speedway, the Daytona 500 Speedway. And it's a huge racetrack. And at Thanksgiving time, they have all these hot rods, man. I mean, they're 50s and 60s, these muscle cars, like man type cars. And I can remember walking by this Shelby Cobra, 1964 Shelby Cobra. Beautiful little car. And the price tag on it at that time, this is 30 something years ago now, the price tag was like $800 something thousand. And I looked at that car and I looked at my dad, I said, that car is beautiful. I'd never seen that before in my life, Rick. And I looked at the owner, I said, that is a beautiful car. I'm going to own one of these one day. And the owner kind of smirked and my dad looked at me and said, and one day you will. So I got a little die cast model of that Shelby Cobra 1964 car at the age of 16 for a birthday present. That was it. And I've had that little die cast model now for over 3 decades. That vision, if you will, that desire sat in front of my computer screen, sat in front of my life now for 30 years. Guess what's in the garage? 1964 Shelby Cobra. Right? Because it became the thing I possessed that I obsessed on. As I obsessed on that one thing, it came to fruition. The same is true with our business. The same is true with our life. If we obsess over having unbelievable families, being unbelievable parents, we're going to do that. If we obsess over having unbelievable businesses that provide freedom, impact, revenue, whatever it may be, it's going to do that. As the old saying goes, you reap a harvest where you place an emphasis. And so it's that daily decision to be dedicated and laser focused on whatever it is you desire.
You know, I get that. And, you know, I see people that, you know, they put the $1 million check on their wall or whatever that is. I need to understand from you, because I know that you coach a lot of folks as well. What are those, I'm going to use the term limiting beliefs. What are those things that keep people from actually achieving what they're setting out to achieve? What do you see? What kind of patterns are you seeing?
I'll be honest about myself. Okay. I've seen a lot of different limiting beliefs. So let me talk about Justin first and what I often see in other entrepreneurs. My limiting belief is pride.
Okay.
We're capable individuals. I'm a highly capable person. I've not found many things in my life that I've been able to look at. And I don't say this braggadocious being my chest, but whenever you have a tenacious or relentless mindset that I'm going to do something, if somebody tells you can't do it, well, you're going to show them and you're going to go and grab the bull by the horn. So for me, my limiting belief has always been pride. Anytime I would almost like a hubris pride of my own life, good Lord has a way of smacking me upside the head and showing you can't do this on your own. You need that wife, that teacher, that friend, that colleague to help you achieve the goal that I've set in front of you. Yeah. For others, it may not be pride. It just may be at the point where they don't have a little bit of faith. They don't have the belief. They're not clear. I remember whenever I met with my coach, I was 36 years of age. We had not yet reached Decamillionaire status. And I wanted to have a network greater than 10 million to work what I had my 19-year-old self. And at that point, Rick, we were broke, dude. We had gone through 7 years, I call it tribulation. We lived in a little double-wide mobile home. And I kid you not, on Christmas Day, I'm laying in the floor of the mobile home with a Red Ryder BB gun shooting mice as my kids are opening presents, as they're running through the kitchen floor. You can't make this up, brother. Yeah, that's literally where we're at that phase of our life. And I remember saying, but Emily, my wife, we will be worth $10 million in less than 48 months. And I went to meet my coach, the person I hired. He said, Justin, I'm going to charge you $10,000 a month to help you get there. Are you ready? And I was like, did you not hear that I was broke, man? I'm living in a double-wide trailer. Our truck is off this broken down the front yard, man. We are killing ourselves. He said, it's not that you need to pay me. You have to pay me. And I went on to find out what he ended up teaching me in that moment is that he made the statement. He said, Justin, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want the $10 million plus net worth? I said, pretty freaking bad, dude. I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of being poor. I think I could do a lot of good if I didn't have to focus on money. He made this statement, Rick. He said, can you touch it? Like, what? I like, dude, you're smoking crack. He's like, no, seriously. Can you touch it? Can you feel what it would be like if you had $10 million? I can remember him, Rick, he's sitting there in a bathrobe at the pool. He's smoking a big old cigar, like he was part of the mafia, right? This man's highly successful. And he leans up and he's like, hey, brother, can you touch it? I'm like, what do you mean, can I touch it? He said, can you see it? I said, yeah. He goes, can you taste it? Yeah, I can taste it. Can you smell it? And I'm like, yeah, I get into that moment. He said, and we're going to go. And as long as you lean into that limiting belief, what oftentimes we have as business owners is we get this wild harebrained idea and we're not 100% confident in it. We're not willing to burn the ships. We're not willing to put everything at risk for that one outcome. We're not willing to say, you know what, even if it doesn't happen, I have to do it because I'd rather try and fail than not try and look back with regret. And that to me is probably the one that most of us as entrepreneurs. Now, here's where it gets even harder, Rick. It's not the infancy that kills us. It's whenever we get comfortable as entrepreneurs. When we start making enough money that we feel a little comfortable, we start making enough money, we can do those things we desire to do financially, or when we have a little bit of impact, a little bit of things, that now we get comfortable and we now start doing what I call the sandcastle effect, where we get on the beach, we build a little sandcastle with our kids and the waves start coming in. So what do? We build a moat around the sandcastle trying to protect it. And it's like, we're going to protect our influence. We're going to protect our wealth. We're not going to take the same risk that we did before. We're not going to go as hard forward as we did before. And now when we start and have a little bit of comfort, that is what separates, as Jim Collins famously wrote in his book, Good to Great, that's what separates the average business owner from being the business owner who's master. And that is that protectiveness. And we just get comfortable. So I think it's for everybody, it's different, but those are what I often see for the business owners.
Have you ever gotten to a point where, you're building your company, you're running your company, and you get to a place where you're stalled? You talked about like desert season earlier, and you get, I don't know, mentally stalled. You get tired. You're up here, you're doing the thing every day, but you're not seeing progress. Have you been there before?
Yeah, I think every business owner has. I learned this concept, though, that can help every business owner. If you're feeling stuck or you're not feeling as energized as you have in the past, it helps to understand where you are in the journey. So I learned this simple concept years ago, Rick, and it goes like this: 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. Okay, so just repeat 1 and 3. As a business owner, for those of us who launched or started a business, we remember what it's like to go from no income to perhaps $10,000 a month. That's my first one. Man, that's all about hustle. It's all about proof of concept. Can we achieve that? Yeah. And in the early days, it's like, we're going to roll our sleeves up. We're going to charge hell with the water business. We're going to make it happen because it's all tenacious. We break through that first one, that $100,000 a month. I'm sorry, the $10,000 a month. The 3 is $30,000 a month. Okay, when we go from 1 to 3, the game changes on us, right? And so now we're perhaps, depending on the flavor of the business we have, now we're having to hire our first assistant perhaps, or our first employee, or maybe we're having to bring in subcontractors for the first time. And now our piece of the pie got smaller. We're still making pretty good money, but it got smaller. So the game changed. Here's where that the glass ceilings, our energy kicks in. We don't feel the fire in our belly like we once had, is when we break through to the next one. The next one, so we went from 10,000 a month or 120,000 a year, 30,000 a month to 360. Between that 360,000 a year revenue and $1 million in revenue, 80% of business owners live there. 80%. What happens in that area is that we, the business owner, the business revolves around us. We're at the epicenter of our business. Everything flows to us. We say things like, we got to work on our business versus in our business. But where we lose the fire in our belly is we get burnt out because we carry the weight, almost like Atlas does on the book Atlas Shrugged. We carry the weight on our shoulders and everything's hammering us at that point. And the reality is that we have to surround ourselves between that 360, that $1 million with one or two or three other teammates that can carry some of the weight. It's almost like pallbearers carrying the casket. You got to have some other people help carry the casket with you. So we get stuck and we feel like, man, no one else can do it like me. Employees suck. They always come in, they leave. We have all these things that happen because we don't realize that in that time period, it's all about delegation. That's the magic word there that most of us don't master. So during the next $1 million to $3 million, there's about 10% of us as business owners that'll break through $1 million and hit that 1 to 3. During that, when we start feeling it yet again, is because we haven't systematized. Systemization kicks in at that point. That's where we have to take everything that's in our brain and put it in place where others can work with it. By the way, let's just one more step further. You go from 3 million to 10 million. There's my next one. All that is about automation. And then we can just keep going. So whenever we feel the weight of this, we don't have the fire in our belly. We feel weighted down. We don't have that spizmarink, as my dad used to say. He's like this thing that we can just charge out with a water pistol. More than likely, it's because we're in that tranche and we're not letting go what needs to happen in that tranche to get us re-excited. I'll tell you, until you break through, as a general rule, until you break through $1 million of revenue, it's boring, it's hard, it's a pain in the butt. Once you get up to an hour, you're working on systems, and then you ultimately get up to automation, dude, it's fun. It's fun being a business owner at that point, but it's hard to break through those.
Yeah, I can imagine. You've worked with you gave me the impression you've worked with coaches for the past 20 odd years, yeah?
I have. I've had coaches for almost 30 years.
So tell me about the benefit. This is one of the conversations I really want our audience to really benefit from. Tell us why you feel having a coach is so important.
So I've reached a point in my life where I'm not solving for income. And I don't say that prideful. I say that just as a frame of reference. Had a lot of success over 36 years of business. And yet today I have 5 coaches in my life. The 5 coaches, what they show me is a couple of things. One, they hold even high performers accountable to our goals. That's one. Number 2 is I'm paying for a shortcut. I'm willing to use somebody else's lifetime experiences and all the people that they have worked with and grab the data points from them and apply it to my life. And so I've almost got like the vortex where I can just like jump through time and shrink the time span for me. So I'll give you a real life example. One of my coaches is a podcast coach. Now, you and I were talking, Rick. I've got almost 700 podcasts on my own. I got 300 hours of me talking on my podcast. I talk all the time on podcasts everywhere, but yet I have a high podcast coach. Whenever I hired my podcast coach, my podcast was non-existent, top 5 globally. We had a good audience. But now if you look at it, I don't know what it is today as we're recording this, but we're typically floating between number 50 and number 75 to 80 in the global business owner category of the podcasting. We're in the top 100 of all podcasts in the world in business right now. So whenever I hired the coach, he showed me how to do things because of the outcome that I wanted that abbreviated the output. So years ago, whenever I was in high school, we had a coach. I had a wrestling coach. I had a soccer coach. Somebody could look at it. I remember when I was 22, I was getting in business and I was like, I don't need this. Pride. That's my Achilles for me. I mentioned earlier. I don't need to do this. I can figure it out on my own. I can DIY myself. I can read a book or listen to podcasts, whatever it may be. And I can remember watching Michael Phelps. You remember the decorated athlete, right? The swimmer. I can remember him watching Rick. And for those of you who are in the video world or not in the video world, here's what I saw. He is doing the freestyle and he's fixing to win another gold. We didn't know at that point that he was the amount of golds he was going to take during those Olympics. And the camera panned over to his coach, his swim coach. He had a swim coach, he had a dietitian coach, he had a massage coach, he had various people around him that were helping him. And his swim coach held his hand up in the air, held his arm straight up in the air like I'm doing here on the train, almost like you would say high five way up in the air. And he brought it down and put a 45-degree angle on his elbow. He just basically put his hand where it looked like a 45 degree. And Michael shook his head. That's all that happened. I looked at I was with my family at the time. I said, y'all see that? That coach just did something really funny. And Michael shook his head. Now, afterwards, what we saw when the interview, the reporter said, hey, Michael, what did your coach tell you? He said, my coach saw something I didn't see. He said that my arm had drifted out from the top of my head where I entered the water and I wasn't entering the exact plane. And if I did not correct that, I would not have hit that world record. Wow. So his coach saw something that even the most decorated athlete could not see in that moment and pointed something out, which led to Michael's world record. In that moment, I can remember sitting there saying, oh my goodness, I've already had success as a business owner. I've already exited one business owner, multi-million-dollar position.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty successful, but you know what? I can't read the label when I'm inside the jar. I need somebody who can help me avoid making the mistakes. And so since that time, Rick, I think coaches are the ultimate cheat code. I mean, it's like, like you're back on Nintendo, A, B, so right, up, down, left, right, select, start, like the old Contra cheat code. That's what it is for us as business owners. And if we don't have a coach, we're out here stumbling in the dark and we're not going to be in the top performers. We're just not. We're going to be last days mediocre, and I don't want to do that.
I feel you. And one of the other things that we run into as business owners is things happen. We get sidelined. We were talking briefly about COVID, and you had that experience. And, I'd love it if you tell that story. But, the other piece to that is getting back on the horse, because we get disrupted. And we don't have a choice in that. So
I don't think there's a business owner.
And then kind of how you got back?
Sure. I don't think there's a business owner here that has been in business more than about 2 days who hasn't been kicked in the teeth or hit in the face with something. Whether it be a customer, an employee, your own ambitions just fell in flat. We're all going to get hit with something. I would reach the point in my life. We were about 40 years of age. It's been about during COVID, whatever. I mean, however many years that was now. And Emily, my wife, my bride, had gotten sick and we didn't know what it was. Ultimately, it came down to she had a 12% chance to live. We had to have a specialist come in. And so, Rick, we had this conversation. I'm the guy who had the conversation with his kids that mama might not come home. She might not come home. Here I have a successful business. It's running without me. I'd done everything we just talked about through automation, systematization, all those things. I had a good team that was pushing forward. But I'm up in the hospital. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And she had to have this high-risk surgery. She came out of the surgery, Rick, and she looked at me and she made a statement during that time period. And it was like a hit in the gut. Almost like, your buddies would do after you just came off the hill. They hit you and you lose the wind. I'm just happy my wife's alive. That's literally what I'm thinking. I'm a big softy. I'm in there crying. The doctor's trying to console me. I'm like, dude, I'm just happy. I'm a slobbering mess, as you might imagine, as most men would be if their bride's in the hospital and went through that circumstance. I'm happy that I'm not going to be a widow. I'm happy I get to tell their kids mama's come home. I'm happy about all this stuff. And I'm just with a lot of emotions. And then she wakes up. And Rick, the first thing she asked me was, how to go, not how to go. First thing she asked me, she looked at me as only a bride can, and she said, Justin, yes, dear, what is another $1 million going to do for us? Talking about getting knocked down, that was the moment, okay? Wow. I went from a high to low, and I could not answer her. Some people get knocked down by a lawsuit. Some people get knocked down by a business, an employee taking a customer. Some people get knocked down by a big customer. That in that moment shook everything I had within me, Rick. And I sat there and I just looked at her, mouth open, no statement. And she dozed off because of the anesthesia, went back, and I had to walk out. Lost it. I called my coach because I had a coach who was helping me scale my company, right? I called him and I said, Coach, here's what she just said. He said, what'd you say? I said, I was speechless. And then she went right back off because of anesthesia. And he said, well, whenever we see each other tomorrow, we're going to talk about that. So the next day I see him and he said, Justin, I'm asking it to you slightly different. If you had unlimited time and unlimited resources, what would you do tomorrow that you're not doing today? Now that clicked in my head. And I said, you know what I would do? My life word is impact. You've used that already today. I want to impact people. I believe that each of us have a unique experience, and I want to pour back. As Dr. Miles Monroe once time said, he said, the saddest place is a cemetery, not because somebody died. That's just life, but because so much of their wisdom, died with them and they didn't share it. That little dash that you mentioned earlier in our conversation, it's there. And I'm like, I would impact people's lives. I would get on the radio, I'd get on TV, I'd get on stage and say, there is a better way to do whatever it is. There's a better way to scale a business. There's a better way to reach Decamillionaire status, as my new book's going to talk about. There's a better way to do this than the grind and living this life. You know, as the old country saying, get all you can all you get, and sit on your can, man. There's a better way than that. Let me show you, if a country boy can do this, you can too. And I told him that, and he said, great. Then why aren't you? Rick, in that conversation, it led me to a point to walk away from a 7-figure salary, sell my business, totally disrupt my life, turn around and start writing, speaking, and now coaching a small sect of highly skilled professionals. And in that time period, this last 3-4 years I've been doing this, brother, there is not a day that goes by that I don't dread now. I mean, that I dread get out of bed. It's like every day. I looked at the calendar last night. I said, man, I get to go talk to Rick Meekins today. It's going to be fire. It's going to be, I can't. I hope I bring the A game. We're going to impact some people. And that's the way I show it, because I'm having the time of my life. Yeah. But it only shows up whenever you get kicked in the face, hit in the teeth, figure out what it is that you're designed for. So I don't think I have all the answers, buddy, but I do know that I've been around a little while, and I've seen a lot of business owners succeed. And those who get clear on their calling and clear on their purpose and clear on the way that God's uniquely equipped them, man, they live a life like none other.
Yeah. So it's almost like that. You never work a day in your life. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the tools or some of the ideas or thoughts that you feel have made you successful, or, you know, perhaps, you know, what makes a successful entrepreneur?
You know, my newest framework that we're working on, this is actually the book that's going to be coming out here in the next 6 months or so, is called the Decamillionaire Way. Mm-hmm. And this is after 33 years of starting, scaling, and exiting companies. I've had 7 companies that I've started, scaled, and or exited for 7, 8, and 9-figure valuations. So I've had a lot of fun times. I've had times where I've had 400 employees all the way down to 3 employees. I've been there, right? What the Decamillionaire Way is a framework that shows me, how do I reach freedom? Now, most of us would automatically put a $sign for freedom. That's fine. That's where many of us are, because we're trying to win more business, trying to maybe close, maybe pad our bank account for our future success. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But for some of us, freedom may be, how do I have more time now to spend with my family? It may be, how do I use the influence to go out and write a book? It may be, how do I start a podcast like you've done? For freedom could be various things for different people.
Yeah.
The way I look at the Decamillionaire status is there's 5 steps. First of all, before I go there, what is a decamillionaire? Decamillionaire is someone who has a $10 million or more net worth. Now, before you say, man, that seems awful crazy, here's the data points. There's 33 million small business owners in the United States. 28 million of us are service-based, which means we provide our time and our service, like the HVAC company, the plumber, the gardener, the financial advisor, you and I as coaches, various people. We have a service-based business. Mm-hmm. Of those 28 million in the service-based business, the goal that the average, the mean, if we would bell curve this out, the mean we're shooting for is roughly $250,000 of annual revenue. So let's say $20,000 a month. Mm-hmm. And so we work really hard to get to $20,000 a month. And that's the goal that most of us do. What we don't realize, though, is because we're really good, we hate taxes, and we have good advisors, is that we end up putting our family on the payroll. We end up paying for our cell phone out of the company. We take our vacations out of the company and call them various things the IRS allows us to do. But before you know it, what happens is those of us who are successful, who are tenacious, who charge hell, who are relentless, like you and I talk about, we reach that $20,000 or more in income, but then we end up having $10,000, $15,000 a month in extra benefits cooked into the company. So our total income, what we call our total float is $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So now we get to a point sometime in this journey of entrepreneurship to where, okay, I'm tired, or I want to do something else. Yeah. And we get ready to exit, or we get ready to transition it to a team member, to an outside buyer, to a family member, whatever it may be. And we get the offer price, and we're like, what the? If I get this much money, I got to cut my lifestyle down by this much. So there's a concept that the financial industry uses called the 4% rule. I basically say, if you had $10 million earning 5%, that gives you $500,000 a year. That's about where the mean average of business owners try to aspire to. Mm-hmm. So I call the Decamillionaire Way is, how do you reach that? How do you reach the point to where you can get freedom, where money's no longer an issue? So there's 5 steps. First step, relentless foundation. Relentless foundation is what you and I have been talking about, is what are you willing to abandon? What is it that you want to charge with all of your vim, all your vigor, everything in your life? What is it that you're going to strive for, that even if you don't reach it, you're better off trying and failing than not trying at all? What is that? If we can get that clear, like you and I've been talking about, then we can go to the next phase, which is relentless examination. This is the difficult work. We as business owners, we do the hard work all the time. We don't do the difficult work. The difficult work is the introspective things. It's the way I talk about it, Rick, is, man, I love pancakes. I do. I love pancakes. Bananas on top, a little bit of cream, maybe a little whipped cream, maybe some little maple syrup, but I love pancakes. Have you ever seen a one-sided pancake?
No, man.
No. It's always two sides. We as business owners, we put all of our eggs in the basket. We put all of our strength and mindset to the business. And there's 286 metrics in the average business out there that a buyer is going to look at to say, this is a very solid, viable, highly valuable business. So we put all of our energy there. But the opposite side of that pancake is, how's our faith? How's our family, friends, fitness, and finances? Those other things over here. So the relentless examination is about, how do we balance those out? How do we create, like you and I were talking about beforehand, how do we create that leverage so that we can breathe? So we actually have a life outside of the identity of our business ownership. So relentless foundation, relentless examination. Then we go to one of my favorites, relentless execution. I think I saw in your book behind you, execution, right? Because execution is where things fall off on. We get all these ideas, but we don't carry through with it. So how do we execute relentlessly? Then the fourth step is relentless exit. How do we build companies to where we can exit, to where somebody can run it? We can have the golden goose, if you will. How do we build a company to where we can sell it perhaps and go do something else like I've done? How do you build a company where you can pass it down to your children? That's the relentless exit phase. And then finally, the fifth one is relentless freedom, because freedom is going to come whenever you position your life, not just your company, your life, where you're able to answer the question my coach asked me. If you, Rick Meekins, had unlimited time and unlimited resources and you knew you couldn't fail, brother, what would you do tomorrow that you're not doing today? When you get line all those things up, man, now this world that we live in, this vision that you have becomes not a job, not laborious, not a sludge. It becomes a position when you get in the morning, it's like, okay, world, here we go. Let's get up. We got to charge hell with a water pistol today, because you know that every single day is going to yield you that much closer to that relentless freedom.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Are there any personal habits that you feel have really poured into your success?
So there's three that I personally do. This isn't for everybody. I love how Alex Hormozy says, I've been successful. I didn't have the 4-hour work week. I didn't do the miracle morning. I love how he says that, because each of us are different. So for me, there's a few things that I do. Number one, I read a book a week. I'm a voracious reader. I love reading books. I've been doing that since I was 16. And for me, it allows me to see other people's concepts. I often heard that a great writer has to be a great reader, a great speaker has to be a great reader. And I want to be exceptional, man. I want to be some of the best in my lifetime. I'm not there yet. I know I'm weak and anemic, but I want to be there where people say, man, that guy helped me. I know he's a little Southern, he's a little country, and he's got his funny accent. He looks kind of funny, but he helped me. I want to be that individual. I want to pour my life into others. So I've been a voracious reader. Number two, my coach challenged me. He said, about every 6 weeks, you need to take a break. And you need to take a break to be a father, a friend, a husband, and put a hobby there. In my case, it may be a farmer, a hunter, a fisher, or whatever. So about every 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere I take a break, where it may be a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, man. And me and my wife, if it's our time in our younger days when we were poor, we would go to Holiday Inn Express and we would get a pizza and some buffalo wings and some popcorn, and we'd veg out on the bed and just watch cartoons or whatever it was for 4 days straight just to get away.
Nice.
Now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to the North Pole for 14 days because I need that rest from my mind. So number two is take care of yourself. Take care of those important. So number one is reading. Number two is yourself. And number three is I do have this ritual that I do every morning. It's kind of silly. It's me. I get up every morning and I typically will go work out 3 days a week. 2 days a week I don't, but I go work out 3 days a week. And then I come home and I sit in the hot tub. And I sit in the hot tub for about an hour and a half, Rick, and I watch my girls. We have deer in the backyard. I watch my girls every morning. I feed them and I sit out there and watch them. And all I do is I take my thoughts from the previous day. Like, I'll do this tomorrow morning with you and I conversation. I'll say, man, I wonder what Rick asked me that I could have improved better on. And I'll take my thoughts and I'll journal them just using dictation. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm doing my meditation. I do my devotions out there. I listen to music. I write music. I do these various things. And it's my hour a day just to kind of get my world set. It's typically been 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, early in the morning, whenever I wake up, and then I'm ready to go. So those are the three things I do. They may not work for somebody else. Somebody else may have a different ritual, and that's fine, but those are what I do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think it's about, finding that thing, finding those things that kind of feed you, and finding that cadence. I love the, as we were talking about earlier, I love the idea of just taking a couple days off, on the weekend, taking a long weekend. I think that's so powerful. I'm looking forward to doing some more of that. One of the other things that you've mentioned a number of times has to do with your faith. And I'm really curious, how has your faith impacted your business, whether it's the way that you do business or your expectations or even like some of the directions that you've taken with your business?
I'll give you the real life data fact here that opened my eyes up. So I was born and raised in the South. I was a typical Sunday go to church. Mom and dad drugged me. I was a drug baby. They drugged me to church Sundays and Wednesdays, multiple times a week, sung in the choir, did the Awana program. That's the way I was raised. Uh-huh. And, I'm a Christian. I put that in parentheses. And whenever I launched my podcast back in about 2016, I talked a little bit about it. I showed up authentically. And those were the days when there weren't as much competition, and we had hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode. And then I sold the company, had an exit on the company, and the buyer said, "Hey, look, Goodbread, we love you, but you can't talk about your faith. You can't talk about your Southern heritage because it may be offensive to some people. You got to watch the language you use. I use a lot of Southern slurs, just like get on out of here type of things. That dog won't hunt." They said, "You can't do that because we have clients all over the world that you can't." So I call it whitewashing, like you would whitewash a wall, if you will, like painting it white. I ended up whitewashing who I was and moving my authenticity away. And what we saw happen, Rick, is that within 9 months' time, hundreds of thousands of followers on multiple platforms all vanished, less than 2,000 followers. 9 months' time, went away.
Wow.
Whenever Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I was sitting there and I was writing a sheet of music. I've been playing the piano. I was writing some music and I didn't know that event was going to happen. And in that moment, I made a commitment to myself that, I'm going to be authentically Justin. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be a country boy born and raised in the South who loves people, who married a beautiful Filipino girl that we just are having the time of our life, man. I'm going to pour into people. You know what? Part of my journey is, yes, I like to hunt and I like to fish and I talk a little funny and I don't like pineapple on my pizza and I have a smart phone called an Android. Now you won't ever catch me with an iPhone. I have these little funny things, but you know what? I'm also a Christian. I'm not going to beat you over the head with the Bible, but I'm going to tell you who I am. And if you ask me a question like you just did, I'm going to say, I'm a Christian. I believe everybody should know Jesus. But, there's some principles. I mean, he is the most quoted person in the world. We have a whole civilization surrounded around his interest in the world. So what it's done for me is when I lean back in the authenticity of who I was and didn't shy away from my faith, what I thought would happen was my brothers and sisters out there who maybe have a different perspective of something. Oh, we can't talk to him. He's radical. It didn't happen, Rick. You know what happened? Some of my dearest friends now are Buddhist and Muslims. I'm a Christian. Some of my closest friends are on the opposite side of the political aisle than I am because now they know here's who Justin is. And he's comfortable enough in his person that he can speak authentically about himself and help others from a framework. We know where he's coming from. We don't agree with him. Crap, man, I don't agree with myself half the time. We don't agree with him, but we respect him. When I moved authentically after Charlie Kirk's assassination, what we saw happen was we moved from a few 100,000 downloads per quarter to now almost 5-6 million downloads per quarter. Amazing. Of me just being authentic. So if somebody's out there and you have a position that's radical, whatever it may be political, it may be financial, it may be that you're going to take the proverbial brick of your industry, like I did in the financial world. I said financial advisors should not invest in your 401k. Brother, it pissed a lot of financial advisors off. But it's a brick that I was going to throw through a window because I believe it. And when I stood authentically on it, people began looking, and it's no longer just another talking head on a podcast. It's somebody who's different, who's unique, who people can agree with or disagree with. And you know what? At the end of the day, if we do or don't, I still love you. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a conversation. And we may not change each other's minds, but there's a mutual respect that came from me being authentically in your question, sharing my.
Wow. I didn't, that's not the answer I expected. I appreciate that. That was beautiful, man. That's absolutely beautiful. I have a question. You're going to love it. One of the questions I ask all of our guests is obviously the name of the show is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. All right. So winning is something that we can typically define. The challenge that we have sometimes is maintaining that relentless pursuit. What are you going to recommend to our audience in order to encourage them to maintain that relentless pursuit?
Wow. That's a powerful question. So I'm going to answer the way my brain's processing. First of all, what does the term winning mean? We may be able to change it out with success. And so I think if we can determine what that is for each of us, it helps us determine how do we stay motivated to that end. So for example, success for me is this. I picture this. It's not biblical, Rick, but this is what I think. I figure myself when I go to heaven, Peter's going to open the gates and I walk in and Jesus and God's there and they're going to be like, hey, Justin, here's who you could have been if you had a little faith. If you had just taken that extra step, if you had just not given up too early, if you had done this, here's what I had for you. Man, I want that. I don't even know what that is, but I want to be in a position to where I'm able to pour it all on the field. And whenever I hopefully get to heaven, when I get to heaven, I'm entering into it exhausted, man, that I've done everything I can. So that to me is success. So now if I'm going to pursue that success, then all I have to do is fix my eyes on that image. And no matter what comes, the way I think about it in my mind is almost like these glasses. I'm getting older, dude. I can't see without them. What I believe with all my heart is this, is that God created Rick Meekins unique and Justin Goodbread unique. And everybody's listening to us unique. There's 8.2 billion people in the world. Brother, do you realize that no one else has your experience? No one else has your gifts. No one else has your abilities. No one else has it. You're uniquely and wonderfully made. So am I. And if I realize that I am unique and there's something there's only I can do, and then when I get to heaven, in my picture of heaven, that there's a picture of Justin that he could be, then the pursuit of that, the energy to drive forward to the outcome ends up being not laborious. It ends up being almost spiritual, if you will. It ends up being to a position where it's like, okay, I want to get that. Let me look today on if I'm taking a step closer to perhaps where I could be. Am I taking a step closer to being 100% my best self? And honestly, brother, there are many days when at the end of the day, it's like, man, I didn't give it all today. Man, I was a guest on that podcast. I didn't bring it about. I didn't bring my game. I had that team member there. I could have handled that differently. I need to go apologize and work on that tomorrow. There's many days like that. And I think the pursuit of winning is about all the failures that we have day in, day out, all those micro failures, identifying them, but then couching them in distinction and proximity to where we ultimately see ourselves in the future. I think that is the definition of pursuit of winning.
I've never considered the idea of looking at winning based on your eternal resting place. You know what I mean? Looking at, standing before God and say, hey, you know what? This is where I am. How do I level up? I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. Cool, man. What's something you want to leave our audience with?
I love this statement. There's a simple term that I learned, or simple concept I learned years ago. So my degree is actually horticulture. You probably realize I grew up in the South on the country farm, and I just keep things super simple. Here's what I learned years ago. You reap what you sow. Well, we heard that, right? We've heard that our whole life. If we put corn in the ground, we're not going to get okra. We're going to get corn. But here's some other things that we got to remember as business owners. We're going to reap in proportion. Let me go back. We're going to reap only if we plant in the fertile soil. So as business owners out there, wherever we're sowing our seeds, our product, our marketing, our branding, whatever it is, it's got to land in fertile soil. You've got to make sure that you're aligning your widget, your service with the people who are receptive to that. Number one. Number two, you're going to reap in a different season than you've sown. It's the summertime here in East Tennessee. We're getting corn that we now on the tassel that we plant in the springtime. Whenever we plant things in our business, we're not going to get it tomorrow. We're going to plant things, and it may be a different decade before we receive, but we're going to reap in a different season. We're going to reap what we sow, but we're going to reap in proportion to what we sow. Here's where so many of us as business owners mess up. We try something very anemically. We plant this little seed here, and let's stand back and watch it grow, and it doesn't grow as fast as we want. So, that didn't work. We're going to go over here. Reality is that if we were to take a whole handful of seeds and throw them out there, you realize that one kernel of corn gets 2 ears per stalk. And on each ear of corn, there are hundreds, not thousands of kernels of corn. We're going to reap in proportion to what we sow, but we're always going to reap what we sow. So my challenge to every business owner out there is when you take a step back and you do that hard introspective work and you identify what is it that you truly desire? What is it that you believe God Almighty has put you on earth for? What are your skill sets? What is this something that is unique of your abilities that no one else possesses, that you have a passion for, and you're willing to charge hell with a water pistol on your worst day, Rick? I'm talking about, dude, your dog got ran over. You woke up with a fever. Your wife's mad at you, and the car broke down. You're going to get out of bed that morning. You're going to go meet that individual, that customer, because you know that you can rock their world. On that day, what is that thing that you know you can deliver to them? If you get that crystal clear, then what the enemy is going to do is he can't rob your purpose. He can't rob your vision. He can't, because that's God-given. I believe that with all my heart, Rick. But what he can do is he can dilute our focus. He can distract us. He can take and put blinders on us and make our vision blurry. It's up for us every single day as business owners to take a step back. Why are you in business? What are you trying to solve? What are you trying to achieve? Who are you impacting? Who are you serving? And once you get clear on that, then everything else melts away. And you're going to see, man, the enemy, he is so crafty. He knows how to discourage you. He knows how to keep you from moving forward. And as soon as we can recognize those things, like, man, get out of here. I'll slap the stupid off your face. Let's go for it. We're going to charge hell with a water pistol. That's my encouragement for our business owners.
Awesome. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I love people when they connect with me on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel that we share things specifically for financial advisors. But here's what I'll tell you. If you're not a financial advisor, look, they got it freaking hard. They got this compliance world that most business owners don't live in. If you want to watch some cool things on how to scale your business, take it, chew the chicken off the bone, spit out the bones, and you can have some things on the YouTube channel called Justin Goodbread. Our podcast is Decamillionaire Decoded, top 100 podcast. And you can find me, the one, the only Justin Goodbread on Instagram. You'll see a little bit about my life, and I'll encourage you every day the best I can.
Awesome, beautiful, Justin. It's been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Absolutely. And folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.